Hello everyone, and thanks for tuning to this week's episode of the AYS Podcast. My name is Aiyroe, and I'll be kicking this episode off. Today's episode, you will hear various members of our staff team, specifically our podcast team, speak about points regarding this week's topic, how to find the perfect staff for your server. This episode will feature the following. Our Chief Business Officer, Sandro, will be covering staff applications and possible alternatives which may better suit your server in both the short and the long run. Our Chief Executive Officer, Rory, will follow by covering possible staff requirements for your server, such as minimum time since joining, required age, and so on. Sandro will then be coming on once again, this time covering what possible server permissions would suit your server and its staff team best, in the safest and most efficient way possible. Finally, a member of the AYS Podcast team, TMBprest, will be closing out today's episode with a bang. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Now let's dive right in.
Hello everyone, it's Sandro speaking to talk to you about what AYB is. Well, AYB stands for Advertise Your Role. AYB is a sister operation to AYS and is managed by the AYB director, and the current AYB director is Airbus. If you have any questions about AYB, feel free to contact him or the AYB support bot. AYB is an advertising server based on Discord bots. This server will allow you to get help from experts and even advertise your bot on our server and on our listing website, which the link for that will be in the description below. AYB also offers many services to help your bots be more known, such as a bot review, which is reviewed by the AYB staff team and will review your bot's commands, giving you some awesome feedback. If you want this service, feel free to DM AYS support. Thank you.
So, a question that comes up a lot is, how do you keep your server safe from malicious staff members, which is quite a common thing on Discord. Hundreds and thousands of servers have been destroyed by, malicious staff. And it is, in my history on Discord, my past working experience, it's happened to me as well. I used to run, one server got nuked by a staff member when I was sleeping. Another one also did. And, it's quite devastating when all that you work for gets destroyed by someone who does not care at all. So there are a number of ways you can combat this sort of behavior. When your server gets bigger, it starts to become harder for these things to happen because you have more active staff members, more people watching out for stuff. People also care about your server more. It serves more of a purpose the bigger it gets because the more people it has. So definitely having a bigger size does help. But having a bigger size can also be bad because you need more staff, which means there's more of an open risk to what can happen. So there are a number of factors that and mitigating things that you can take into account when choosing your staff of how to keep your server safe. So one definite thing is their maturity. So usually you will base this off their age. For example, at AYS we have an age requirement of 15 years. This is to stop kids who aren't as experienced from applying, as well as stop immature people from getting through and hence destroying things down. Not everyone under 15 is immature, but it's the easiest way and the best way to really work out and keep kids who might have bad ideas out. Another thing you need is trust. Now, trust is probably the biggest factor you can have with your staff team. Working in an office environment, you're always being supervised. If you do something bad, you can be held responsible. In an online environment, if you do something, there's not really anyone watching you, and you can just go off and you'll never be found again. Meaning you can get away with basically anything really. That's not illegal, of course, but still. So you need to have trust with your staff members. So, talking to them on a regular basis, making sure they're happy with what's going on. You need to have mutual trust as well, because if they don't trust you, they're not going to have a good working experience. But you need to also trust them, otherwise your server's not going to get anywhere, because if you're doing everything yourself, there's a limit to how much you can do, and at a time you have to start delegating stuff off to people. You have to, give them permissions to do things. One way you can do this is through a trial process. So what most servers will do is they'll have like a role called trial admin or trial mod or something like that, trial helper. Basically, this is a role of limited permissions. It may be for a couple of weeks you're on this. It's basically to say that you really want to do this, and it also helps grow trust by knowing that you're not going to do anything stupid or to destroy a server or a community. So definitely having a trial process does help. It also helps weed out people who aren't going to be any good. So, if you see someone that's getting into a lot of bother, you can say, well, you haven't passed a trial, hence you're not going to become staff. But it also gives you the opportunity to see people work in action on your staff team, but without the chance of them being able to destroy your server. Another thing you should pick is experience. So people who are more trustworthy will have prior experience moderating servers. Usually people who destroy servers have not been a mod on any server before, simply due to the fact that if they were, the message would get out and no one would hire them again. So having experience on the servers, talking to other server owners that have had that person as a staff member is a good way. So such as, references, seeing what they thought of that staff member, if that was good. Another thing I highly recommend is using an anti-nuke bot. So basically this is a bot that watches out for things such as mass banning, mass kicking, mass role deletion, channel update, like stuff like that, but on a big scale. So, 5 bans in, 20 seconds kind of thing. And this such bot you can use is Aturja. I can't pronounce it actually, but it's AUTCAJA, and basically that has an anti-nuke feature in it, which basically means if a staff member does something that looks suspicious, the bot can take action. So you can mute them, kick them, ban them. Usually just best to set to kick, because then they can still rejoin, but they won't have the permissions. But if you mute them, they'll still have the permissions to do what they were doing. But you got to make sure the bot is above that staff member in the role hierarchy. An issue with this bot is if you're doing server revamps and stuff, the bot can get triggered if a user is updating a lot of channels. For example, if you're making a new category or something, and you're getting rid of an old category, if a staff member's doing that, it can be a false positive where the bot will actually just ban them in the end. Another important thing is making sure you have the correct permissions set. So it's a very careful balancing act between what they want, what they need, and what can be bad. Usually the best thing to do is only give them what they need for the job. So for example, don't go giving them admin, managed server you don't need, audit logs that can't hurt. Roles, yes, for some things, only if they need to assign roles, but usually people don't need to be assigning roles. You can also give, manage channel. Again, that should only be used if you're managing channels, if you need to manage channels. Kick and ban, don't give, but we'll discuss why in a minute. Create invite, yeah, all that. Manage nicknames, yes, for mods. You can't really do anything bad with that. Emojis and webhooks. You want to be careful with this. Usually you only want this for admins because you're not always going to be updating the emojis. And definitely webhooks, they can cause issues down the line if a malicious person creates a webhook and spams it. Because webhooks can ping everyone. They're not normal users. They have basically permission to ping everyone and stuff like that. Text-to-speech messages. This should just be off in general because people don't like text-to-speech. And usually don't get deaf people using Discord anyway. But some people do. Manage messages. Yes, for people that need to moderate the server. Don't give purge permissions on a bot because they can literally delete 14 days worth of messages. Mention everyone here, all roles, no, you don't need that. And regarding voice permissions, priority speaker, all those basically you can have because they're not malicious in any way, really. So regarding why you want to give kick and ban, there's a very good reason for this. You would use a bot like Dino for this, because with Dino, there's a cooldown to it. So I think it's every 5 seconds you can ban someone. So this stops people from literally hooking a bot up to their account and banning through that. Now, if you do that, the only thing stopping you is Discord's rate limit, which is 1 or 2 seconds. If you use a bot like Dino, it makes them type out the command, which is a lot harder for a bot to do. As well as Dino doesn't actually apply to bot account, so it has to be on a user account that you use that. and a self bot will get picked up a lot faster if it's typing messages really fast like that, as well as it has to wait the 5 seconds per band for dyno, but it's also very hard for it to do that. Regarding permissions such as purge, you don't want to give these permissions because if someone, purges a million messages, that's basically 14 days worth of messages gone because that's the maximum you can purge. So if once our user runs that 14 days worth of messages, so that could be important stuff, history in your server just wiped. Going back to trust and stuff like that, when you're hiring staff, you want to be making sure you're picking people who are active within your service and not people that just, come along, haven't spoken in your server before just wanting to be staff, because that can call for power-hungry people who won't care about your server, and people just looking for, to have a moderator role. As well as these people will be inactive in their moderator duties. So usually a good way to combat this is to make sure people, if you have a level system, make a minimum level requirement to become staff. Such as on AYS, we used to have bronze level 5 regiments. You had to reach the May6 level 5 level on the messaging leaderboard XP thingy. Another thing is the amount of time in a server. So on AYS, we also have, you have to be in AYS for a minimum of 30 days to apply. This basically stops people from making ults and stuff and coming onto AYS and applying. It saves us trouble. As well as we can see their history within AYS, and we don't, they're not coming from the blue. Another important thing is if you have had bad staff or people who are against your server, when you hire new staff, you want to, properly verify them. I don't suggest making them show ID because that's not going to end up working very well because a lot of people aren't going to show that over the internet to some stranger. A good way to verify people is using a bot like Identifier. Basically makes users verify with another account like Steam, Reddit, or something like that. Also checks if they're using a VPN and reports back to you if they've passed or failed, or if they're trying to use another account to verify. This basically ensures that they don't have an alt that's been banned on your server. And finally, well, not actually finally, but knowing who they are is a very important thing as well. You need to know their history, their background, who they are. The more you know about them, the more confident you'll be about each other. Working together. You don't want someone who you don't know anything about becoming staff because things, over time, we see people's, as they call them, gaps or the bad side of them. For the first, few weeks, you only see their good side, but after time, as time goes on, you start to see their cracks. What they don't do good at. Because if you hire them too fast, you'll only have none the good and you won't have none the bad. We have made that mistake a few times in our past, but we know that you need to know people very well before you go hiring them as well as promoting them within your staff ranking system. Because for they could be a narcissist or someone who holds really interesting beliefs or something along that line. Finally, I'll discuss about individual channel permissions. This is going back to permissions again, and category permissions. So when you go assigning people like permissions in their roles, those are for every channel unless you specifically override them, and you need to specifically override them for like your important channels like welcome. Otherwise, you're going to have some trial mod who can delete messages in the announcement channel, or some mod who has role permissions who can edit the announcements channel to allow them to type in it. This is why it's important for your main channels to basically deny every permission for everyone except your administrators. This stops people from, even if they have the permissions, from even if they have the permissions, from using them on your most important channels. So I hope these are some good tips on how to keep your server safe when hiring staff members.
Hey guys, it's Prest here coming into the break. Just like to remind y'all to join the AYS official Discord, link in the description, and to use that to the fullest. AYS offers a range of services you can get by joining. Also, remember to subscribe to our channel and check us out on Spotify, join our Patreon, link in description, and check out our store. Now, on to Sandro with the rest of our podcast.
Hey, it's Sandro again. I would like to talk to you guys about staff permissions you should give to staff. Trusting staff can be very hard for some people, however, you will need to know what permissions to give staff. Partnership managers shouldn't have much perms other than assigning roles using a bot and deleting messages. Helpers should be on a trial and should only have minimum perms such as mute and delete messages. Your moderators should have kick and ban as well as the other permissions mentioned before. Your head admin should have admin permissions to help you on your server. Promoting staff should be the job of the owner and should be only done when you feel like the employee is ready and you know everything you need to know about them. Learning to trust your staff members are crucial so you can have your server in a proper way.
So there you have it, folks. That is how to properly set up a staff team, set an application process, how to trust people in it, and how to protect it. Thanks to our cast, Rory, Inpin, and Sandro, and remember to like, subscribe, and join the Patreon and Discord server, link in the description. Have a great rest of your day or night.